Chapter 7 of HRM will talk about training. And in this chapter, a systematic approach to training and designing an effective training system is going to be discussed. That would include the needs assessment, the organizational analysis, the company strategy that is going to be implemented, the person analysis, task analysis that is appropriate, creating a learning environment, consideration of employee readiness for training, and then the transfer of training issues are to be discussed further as we go along the discussion of Chapter 7. The numerous training methods are going to be described even and be reviewed. And then next, the evaluation of training programs is going to be presented even. And this chapter will conclude with the special issues that will tackle about training, including the cross-cultural preparation that is going to be presented, and managing workforce diversity, how you go over and adjust to the diversity composition of the organization. The joint union management program are also to be articulated in the event. And then the socialization, the orientation, training, and the pay system will also briefly discuss as we go along the chapter discussion. The learning objectives of the chapter is going to be an understanding about the discussion of how training can contribute to companies' business strategy development. And then it will also explain the role of a manager in the identification of the training needs and the support that training on the job will be provided. And then at the same time, we'll conduct a need assessment in the course of event. And then after that, it will evaluate the employees' readiness for training practices. And then after the studying the chapter, we will be able to discuss the strength and the weaknesses in the presentation, the hands-on and the group training facility and methods, and then explaining the potential advantages of e-learning for training. So in today's world, e-learning is very much in demand and are being engaged and being adopted by the organization even. And then the chapter will also help us design a training session to maximize our learning process. And then it will choose an appropriate evaluation design that is based on training objectives and the analysis of constraints. There are lots of challenges and constraints that are going to be presented even. And then the chapter will also help us design a cross-cultural preparation program to tackle about how to deal with the diversity composition of an organization. And finally, it will help us develop a program for effectively managing diversity. So these are the things that on our objectives of the learning process in Chapter 7. Besides helping employees develop the continuous learning in supporting their business strategy and gaining competitive advantage, training, learning of job skills, training even helps the company retain and motivate the employees. And then from there, the company's perspective, the training is strategically for business goals, achievement related to human resources, as well as the productivity in the course of event, and then catering to the customer, satisfaction of the customer through its efficient customer service and high motivation. So the motivation are also being engaged. Now, what is the benefits of having to have a very good design on training? So training can increase the employee's knowledge, and on top of that, it can also training can also be at par. You will be ready in the knowledge of foreign competitors and different cultures, approaches to the different organizations, not only here but also worldwide. Now, training can also help ensure that the employees have the basic skills to work with the new technology. So it is a known fact that today's organization are adhering or practicing or adapting to the new technology. The training can also help employees understand how to work effectively in teams to contribute to product and service quality. Training can also ensure that the company's culture emphasizes the innovation and then developing its creativity and enhancing the learning process in the course of event. Now, training can also ensure the employment security. How? By providing new ways for employees to contribute to the company when their job change. When their job change at the same time, when they, the interest, now their interest change even, or their skills become obsolete. So there's a continuing learning process by undergoing into the training. Now, training can also prepare the employees to accept and work more effectively with one another, with each other, particularly with even the diversified members of the organization. For example, the minorities and women. Now, we will talk about the high leverage training strategy, a systematic approach. In general, training refers to a planned effort by a company to facilitate the learning of job knowledge, skills, or behavior of the employees. Now, the high leverage training is a link training to strategic business goals and has top management support and relies solely on an instructional design model and is benchmarked to programs in other organizations to compare with. And then another one is the continuous learning. In the continuous learning, it's a system that requires the employees to understand the entire work processes and expects them to acquire new skills and then apply those skills that they have learned on the job. And then after the application, share what they have learned with other employees even. So that is the continuous learning. For example, there's a company, the Jonesville Foods, an example of continuous learning. They give each employee a budget of about $100 every year to spend in any type of development activity related to work or non-work related. So they give give a lot of budget, allocated this budget for self-development even, to the benefit of the company eventually. Now, how do we design an effective training activities? Okay, so the training design processes are referring to the systematic approach for developing a training program. What are to be determined? So first, in the design of an effective training activity first is the needs assessment. When you say needs assessment, it refers to the process being used to determine if there is a need for a training development. And then there are often pressure points that may be suggested that training is necessary. So a needs assessment usually involves the organizational analysis. It is comprising of the person analysis even and the task analysis. Now, we go one by one. When you say organizational analysis, how do we mean by it? It involves determining the business appropriateness of the training. So it is important for us to determine the business appropriateness that is necessary. And then, what are under the organizational analysis? We have the support of managers and peers, and it is important. And the key factor to success are a positive attitude amongst the peers and the managers about participation in the training activities, and it is important to have their support. And this will also involve the willingness to tell the trainees how they can more effectively use their knowledge, use their skills or their behavior in the learning, in training, and developing their jobs, skills, and abilities. And behaviors are necessary and important for them to be able to have a very good acceptance of having to undergo training. Now, another one is the company strategy. So when you say a company strategy, it's a business strategy that is important for company to gain a competitive advantage, because once the employees or the persons that are working with the company has this reputation of having to undergoing continuous learning and continuous training through the continuous training, so therefore in benchmarking their activities comparing to the other companies, they will be having a very good edge over the others. Now, the business strategy for the firm has a major impact on the appropriate training practices for that particular organization and firm. Now, the strategic training and development initiatives are has to be the learning related actions rather, that the company should take to achieve its business goals and strategy. Okay, so it is important. Training resources. So what are needed? In the training resources, it is necessary to identify whether the company has the budget, whether the company has the time, whether the company has the expertise in engaging or installing training. Okay, so in that essence, a company may use an internal consultant, or if there is no available internally, there is an external consultant for training. Okay, so there. And then companies can identify outside consultants and vendors who can provide training services by using the request proposals. You can write them, you can connect with them, and there are lots of resources as far. And HR has this directory of resources for training to be invited. And managers need to evaluate this consultant before, to evaluate if it's appropriate, if it is needed based on the needs assessment. Okay. A request for proposal, we call it RFP. It is a document that outlines for potential consultant, vendors or consultant, the type of service the company is seeking, references needed, number of employees who should be trained, and the project funding that are needed to be also indicated, the follow-up process, expected completion date, and the date when the proposals must be received by the company. So that is a request for proposals, RFP. Now, number 2 is person analysis, which helps the manager identify whether training is appropriate and which employees need training. So determining the needs and the appropriateness of the training for that particular employee. So when a problem such as the performance deficiency is identified, it is often unclear whether training is a solution. So you should assess properly on how to deal with it. Now, in the person analysis, it is important to know the person characteristics. So what is a person characteristic? It refers to the employee's knowledge, employee's skills, his ability, and behavior and attitudes. So that is important. Now, input is also being assessed. So what is input? So input relating to the instructions that tell employees what, how, and when to perform. And it is also important to support also the support that they are given to help them to perform. So it has to be articulated. Next is the output. Now, when you say output, it refers to the job's performance standards. And then consequences. So there. When you say consequences, these are the incentives employee receives for his performance or performing very well. Now, the feedback is also necessary. And feedback is the information that employees receive while they are performing. And that concerns how well they are meeting objectives. Okay, so that is a feedback. Now, we go from the manager's perspective on training. So, the manager's perspective, training should be considered if any of the following is present. Okay, or true, no, based on the findings. What are these? The performance problem is important and has the potential to cost the company a significant amount of money from lost productivity or losing even the customer trust and patronage. Okay? And then another one is the employees do not know how to perform effectively in whatever terms, whatever purpose. No? So there. And then the employees cannot demonstrate the correct knowledge or behavior. A manifestation of, is not capable. And then another one is the performance expectations are clear. And there are no obstacles to performance even. It has to be determined. And then another one is there are positive consequences for good performance. Whereas poor performance is not rewarded and even considered. And then employees receive timely, relevant, accurate, constructive, and specific feedback. And it is important for you to be honest about the predicaments, the feedback, okay? And other solutions are too expensive or unrealistic. Okay, so these are the things that are important for a person analysis determination. Now, number 3 is the task analysis also identifies the conditions in which tasks are being performed. Now, a job is a specific position that requires the completion of a specific task that were defined in the job description and job specification. Now, a task is a statement of an employee's work activity that is specific in a job. Okay, so it's important. Now, how do we analyze a task analysis? It involves 4 steps. A task analysis involves 4 steps, if I may repeat. Now, what are these? Number 1 is selecting the job to be analyzed. Okay, number 2, develop a preliminary list of tasks performed on the job by interviewing and observing experts or skilled or expert employees and their managers for validation, and then talking with others who have performed a task analysis. Okay, so number 3, validate or confirm the preliminary list of tasks that were provided. And then number 4 is identify the knowledge, identify the skills, identify the abilities necessary to successfully perform each delegated task. Now, how do we ensure employees' readiness for training? Okay, so motivation to learn. And motivation to learn is the desire of the trainee that is being manifested to learn the content of the training program. You have to have the interest, the employee's interest to be engaged. And then managers can ensure that this motivation by ensuring the following. So what are these? The presence of all of these for the motivation to learn. Self-efficacy. What is self-efficacy? It is the employee's belief that they can successfully learn the content of the training program. And managers can increase employees' self-efficacy level by how? Letting employees know that the purpose of training is to try to improve performance, and then try to identify the areas which employees are incompetent. Okay, so knowing their weaknesses and incompetency of some aspect of the job delegations. Now, next is providing as much information as possible about the training program for him to be able to understand the purpose of the training prior to the actual conduction of the training. Next, under the self-efficacy is that showing the employees the training success of their peers who are now in similar jobs. So it has to be impressed to them that a lot of employees have also undergone those process, and then look at them now. No? They have been promoted because of the acknowledgement of their learned skills and knowledge based on those trainings. Another one is providing employees with feedback. Feedback that learning is under their control, and they have the ability and they have the responsibility to overcome any learning obstacles and difficulties that they are experiencing in the program. So it is important, giving feedback. Now, understanding the benefits of or consequences of training. So definitely, if you undergo training, you will have to get something out of it. Now, and understanding it. So, understanding the benefits or the consequences of training. So, employees' motivation to learn can be enhanced by communicating to them that the potential job-related or the personal and career benefits that they may receive as a result of their participation in the training program. And then the awareness of the training needs is important also for their career interests and goals. Okay? Now, one tool to be motivated is to learn in the training program, and employees must be aware of their skills, their strengths and weaknesses to be recognized, and of the link between the training program and the improvement of their identified weaknesses. Okay? And then, what are work environment characteristics that are needed? Okay, so there are two critical determinants of motivation to learn that has the situational constraint and the special support, and that is work environmental characteristics. The situational constraints include the lack of proper tools and equipment, materials and supplies, budgetary support, and the time. So that is work environment characteristic number one, situational constraint. The social support that we're referring to here is the managers and peers' willingness to provide the feedback and reinforcements for motivating them. And then another one is to ensure that the work environment enhances training or trainees' motivation by learning. And then the managers, how do we ensure it? So managers needs to provide the material, give ample time, job-related information should be articulated, and other work aids necessary for employees to use new skills or behavior before participating in any training programs. And then another one is speak positively about the company's training programs to the employees. Okay, so they have to be informed about it. And then let the employees know that they are doing doing a good job when they use training content in their work. Recognizing the application of what they have learned in the training program. And then encourage work group members to involve each other in trying to use new skills on the job by sharing, by soliciting feedback, sharing training experiences, and situation in which training content was helpful. Okay? And then give employees time and the opportunity to practice and to apply the new learnings, the new skills, and the behavior to their work environment. What is basic skills? Okay, basic skills are reading, writing, communication skills that are needed to be understood, the content of the training program. So that is the basic skills. Okay, and then so there is another one example here. The example of the Brenlin Group. The Brenlin Group has the on-site learning centers that is designed to bring employees to a minimum 8th grade reading and math level. Okay, so Magnavox developed several classes to improve the basic skills after learning that 52% of its hourly employees were functionally illiterate in reading. So there are actually companies that are advocating to hire the underprivileged, no, especially the illiterate. Here is a very good example that a lot of, 52% of their hourly, when you say hourly, it's about the part-timers. They're not the regular ones, but apparently they have to be, yeah, they have to be engaged and being given opportunities to work and earn. So, but then apparently upon learning that they have this 52% uh, of its hourly employees, and found out that they are illiterate and is not capable of comprehensive readings. Now, what did they do? So they conduct a literacy audit to determine the employee's basic skills. So that is, they assess it, and then after that, they the cognitive ability, they determine it. No, so how do they determine it? So it includes the three dimensions. When you say cognitive, this is verbal comprehension, quantitative ability, and reasoning ability is included. Now, in the verbal comprehensions, it refers to the person's capacity to understand and use the written and spoken language. Okay? The quantitative, however, is the ability to refer speed and accuracy in solving math problems, even the basic math problems. And another one is the reasoning ability, is the referring to the person's logic in solving problems. Okay, so that is cognitive ability. And managers should be sure that the readability or the difficulty level of written material, of training materials, does not exceed that required by the job. Now, a readability assessment usually involves what? Analysis of sentence through its length and word difficulty being installed and used. Okay? Now, companies creating e-learning environment. Creating an e-learning environment. So, employees to be able to acquire knowledge and skills in the training program and applying this information in the election of their jobs. And the training program must be included in the specific learning principles or e-learning principles. Now, what are the necessary requirements? So here, employees need to know why they should learn. It should be explained properly well. No? And training objectives will be based on the training needs analysis. That will help employees understand why they need the training. Okay? And then employees should need meaningful training content that is necessary and appropriately for them, based on the needs analysis. And then employees need to have opportunities for practice. So after learning, what do? They have to implement it and then practice it. And then after all of those activities, employees need feedback. So it has to be validated and to know that what they are doing are appropriately learning coming from their trainings. Now, employees learn by observing, by experiencing, and by interacting with others. And then one way employees learn by observing others is with behavior modeling techniques. Okay, so there. So that is part of the creating e-learning environment. Now, what is communities of practice? Okay, when you say communities of practice, it refers to a group of employees who work together and then learn from one another and then develop a common understanding, coming from them, of how to get the work accomplished altogether. Okay. Now, employees need the training program to be properly coordinated and arranged accordingly. And then employees need to commit training content to memory and then, embrace and, adapt. Okay? Now, how do we ensure the transfer of training? Transfer of training are referring to the use of the knowledge, the use of the skills, the behaviors that have acquired learning on the training. Okay, when you say ensuring transfer of training, so these are transfer of training that is influenced by the climate for transfer, manager support, peer support, opportunity to use the learned capabilities, the technology support, and the self-management skills application by transferring. Now, what is climate for transfer? So it refers to trainees' perception of characteristic of the work environment. It's the social support and the situational constraint presented that can either facilitate or inhibit the use of trained skills or behavior altogether. Now, manager support refers to the degree to which the trainees, managers, number one is emphasize the importance of attending training program. Number two is stress the application of trainings in the content to the job. And then managers also facilitate the transfer through reinforcement by using an action plan. Now, an action plan is a document that summarizes what the trainee and manager will do to ensure the goal is being identified. And yeah, that's it. And the content of the training will be used and how it will be used. And strategies for reaching the goal, including the resources that are needed for reaching those goals. And the strategies for getting feedback even, such as a meeting with a manager. And then also speculate the expected outcome. What will be the difference? So that is how we determine it. When you say peer support, it's been coming up in the lessons a while ago. So peer support is the transfer of training can also be enhanced by creating a support network amongst the trainees. And a support network is a group of 2 or more trainees who agree to meet and discuss their progress in using the learned capabilities on the job relation. Now, opportunity to use learned capabilities. So it is an opportunity to perform. When you say opportunity to perform, it is referring to the extent to which the trainee is provided with or actively seeks experience with newly learned knowledge, newly learned skills or behaviors. And then the opportunity to perform is influenced by both work environment and training motivation. Now, again is the technological support rather. So when you say technological support, it's the electronic performance support system, EPSS, electronic performance support system. These are computer applications that can be provided as requested and part of the skills training to be developed. It's an information access and expert advice could be also installed. Now, knowledge management is a process of enhancing company performance by designing and using tools, using systems, embedding to the cultures to improve creation, sharing, and the use of knowledge. So that is knowledge management. Okay? Next is the self-management skills. It is a training program that should be prepared by the employees to self-manage their use of new skills and behavior on the job. Okay. Now, how do we do the selection training methods? Now, in the selecting training methods, survey results indicate that instruction-led classroom, workbooks and manuals, and videos are the most frequently used training methods, and it is adaptable. Now, okay, the presentation methods under the training, okay, under the selection training methods. When you say presentation method, it refers to the methods in which trainees are passive recipients of information. Now, it is instruction-led classroom instructions, meaning a classroom instruction typically involves having the trainer lecture a group of trainees. And then the lecture is often supplemented with questions and answers altogether. It is one of the least expensive, least time-consuming ways to present the information on a specific topic to many trainees. Now, the more active the participation, job-related examples, and exercises that the instruction can build into the classroom instructions, the more likely the trainees will learn and transfer the training to their job. Now, distance learning features two-way communications between people. Okay, so what are these? It includes the audio conferencing, it includes the video conferencing, and it includes the docu conferencing. So these exercises or methods will allow employees to collaborate on a shared document via computers. What is teleconferencing? It refers to the synchronous exchange of audio, video, or text between individuals or group of two or more in more locations. Two or more locations. Each advantage of each advantage is the company can save on travel cost. And then the major disadvantage is the potential lack of interaction between the trainer and the trainees. That is why a two-way communication link is so important, as well as on-site instructions or facilitators. Now, webcasting refers to the classroom instruction provided online via live broadcast. Okay? Another one is the audiovisual techniques. Audiovisual instructions includes the overheads, slides, and video. In most cases, video is more popular. And then video has the advantage of allowing the trainer to vary the speed of the presentation. And it will show situations that cannot be easily demonstrated. And it will also provide trainees with consistent instructions and allow trainees to observe themselves. And then mobile technologies, using it. How? Through iPad and PDAs. Now, the mobile technology allows training and learning to occur naturally throughout the workday or at home. Hands-on methods. So when you say hands-on methods, so it includes on-the-job training, simulations, business games, and case studies. Behavior modeling included. The interactive video is also being engaged, and the web-based training are also engaged. And these methods are ideal for developing a specific skills understanding how skills and behaviors can be transferred to the job, experiencing all aspects of completing a task, and dealing with interpersonal issues that may arise on the job. OJT, or the on-the-job training. So you normally encounter it when mostly graduating students. It involves peers or managers training new or inexperienced employees who learn the job by observation, by understanding, and by imitation. So the simulation of those things. Now, the OJT can be useful for training newly hired employees and then upgrading their skills of experienced employees when new technology is introduced. Cross-training employees within a department or work unit and orienting transferred or promoted employees to their new job. So OJTs are not limited only to the internals but also the externals even. Okay? And if I may add, OJT takes various forms. So what are these? Having employees take responsibility, including apprenticeships and directed training programs. So there, can be both. And then self-directed training. So what is this? It involves having employees take the responsibility for all the aspects of learning. Okay? And then another one is the apprenticeship. It is a work-study training method which with both on-the-job training and classroom training altogether. Now, to qualify as a registered apprentice program under the American state or federal guidelines, at least in the U.S., they will take about 144 hours of classroom instructions and 2,000 hours or 1 year of on-the-job experience which are being required. Okay? Again, 144 hours of classroom instruction, 2,000 hours or 1 year of on-the-job experience are necessary and being required. Now, apprenticeship can be sponsored by individual companies or by group of companies cooperating with the union as per agreed upon. Or the majority of apprenticeship programs are in the skilled trades present. No? Okay? And one of the major advantages of an apprenticeship program is that the learners have the opportunity to learn or earn pay while they learn. So they get paid while, by enhancing themselves through education in terms of learning, and there. And then one disadvantage of apprentice program is they're only limited, limited for minorities and women specifically. There's no guarantee jobs will be available after the program is completed. Now, also, apprenticeship programs will prepare trainers who are well trained in one craft or occupation. Okay? Now, what is simulation or simulation? A simulation is a training method that represents a real-life situation in an artificial, risk-free environment and are used to teach production and process skills as well as management and interpersonal skills. Avatars. The younger generation would understand what's the meaning of avatar is. Avatars are computer depiction of humans. Depiction of humans that can be used as imaginary coaches, as co-workers, as customers in simulations. Okay, so that's avatars. Now, a recent development in simulation is the use of virtual reality technology. Now, it is a computer technology base that provides trainees with a three-dimensional learning experience. Just like, you're there. You're present within the situation. And using specialized equipment for viewing the virtual model on a computer screen. And trainees move through the simulated environment and interact with its components. So, as if you're there. Okay? Now, business games and case studies are also being engaged. These are situations that trainees study and discuss in the case study. And then the business games in which trainees must gather information, trainees must analyze it, and trainees will make decisions for management skills development practices. Okay? Now, another one is the behavior modeling. So, research suggests that behavior modeling is one of the most effective techniques for training or teaching interpersonal skills. And each training session, which typically lasts for hours, focuses on one interpersonal skills, so such as coaching or communicating ideas. Another one is the interactive video. In the interactive video, what happens is that the interactive combines the advantages of video and computer-based instruction. And with this interactive video, the instruction is provided one-on-one to trainees by a personal computer. And trainees use the keyboards or touch the monitor to interact with the program. Okay? An interactive video is also used to teach technical procedures and interpersonal skills. And the training is consistent and is easy to update so as to ensure it is current. And the main disadvantage is the high cost of developing the courseware. Okay, so there is expensive. Now, the e-learning is also referring to training that is delivered on public using the internet or private computer network using the intranet and displayed by the web browser. Now, the web-based training supports virtual reality, animation included, the interaction is engaged, communications are also being engaged between trainees, and the real-time audio and video. The web-based training has an advantage similar to the other multimedia methods. Okay, so what are these? Okay, repurposing. Repurposing refers to the direct translating an instructor-led face-to-face training program. Okay, so that is repurposing. Now, another one is the learner control. It refers to the ability of trainees to actively learn through self-pacing exercises, exploring links to other material, and conversations with other trainees and experts. That's learner control. Blended learning. Many companies are moving to a hybrid or blended learning approach because, number one, the limitation of the online learning related technology. Number two, trainee preference for face-to-face contact with instructors and other learners. And then number three, employees' inability to find unscheduled time during their work days to devote to e-learning or learning from their desktops even. Okay, even schools right now are actually engaged in the e-learning methods, no? The blended learning even. Now, learning management system, we call it LMS. It is a technology platform that automates the administration, the development, the delivery of a company's training program. So that is learning management system. Now, next is the group or team building methods. So these methods help trainees share ideas, share experiences, build group identity, understand the dynamics of interpersonal relationship, and get to know their own strengths and weaknesses and those of their co-workers. Okay. Now, competing through technology. How do we go over it? So it's a blended approach to learning. Maybe most beneficial. So many companies actually are using face-to-face instruction and technology-based training together in a blended learning approach. Okay, and this approach utilizes an online material to train managers about how hiring principles and then has classroom instruction to teach them how to apply those skills being learned. We classify, okay, so one of the classification of the competing through technology is that the adventure learning. So when you say adventure learning, it focuses on the development of a teamwork and leadership skills using the structured outdoor activities. It is best suited for developing skills that are related to group effectiveness, such as the self-awareness, developing the problem solving, the conflict management, and the risk-taking. Okay, so that's adventure. Now, for adventure learning to be successful, exercises should be related to the types of skills that the participants are expected to develop. Now, after the exercises, a skill facilitator should lead a discussion about what happened in the exercise and then what was learned, and then assessing how to set goals and apply what was learned on the job. Okay? And then next, the physically demanding nature of adventure learning is that the trainees are often have to touch each other in the exercise, may increase the company's risk for negligence, and may increase the company's risk for, on top of that, company's negligence, they claims due to personal injury, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. Also, the ADA raises question about requiring employees with disabilities to participate in physically demanding experiences. Okay? So that is physically demanding nature of the adventure learning. Okay. Now, team training involves coordinating the performance of individuals who work together to achieve a common goal. Now, we identify those. Cross-training. When you say cross-training, it involves having team members understand and practice each other's skills so that members are prepared to step in and take another member's place should he temporarily or permanently leave the team. Okay? Coordination training. Now, coordination training involves training the team in how to share information and decision. Okay? And then another one is team leader training, referring to training that the team manager or facilitator specifically, that's it, specifically. Training that the team manager or facilitator. So that's team leader training. Now, action learning. So what is action learning? So it involves giving teams working on actual business problem and then committing to an action plan. And then the accountability should be present, are accountable for carrying out the plan. Okay, the responsibility that goes with it. Now, in the action training, a Six Sigma training should be also be involved and be provided. Now, the Six Sigma training can provide the employees with measurement and statistical tools to help reduce defects and cost cutting or cut cost. Okay. Now, what are the advices for choosing a training method? Okay, so number one is training outcomes. No? So that has to be considered. No? So when you say training outcomes, can be classified into 4 broad categories. So cognitive, skill-based, effective, results, and return on investments. Okay, so there. And then when you say cognitive or learning outcomes, it is a measure of acquisition of knowledge through the paper and pencil tests or work samples. So that is cognitive. Example, safety rules or electrical principles or steps in appraisals, interview appraisals. So these are a very good example of cognitive or learning. Now another one is the skill-based or behavior. It is an outcomes measure skills and behaviors through observation, in manifestation of work samples or ratings. Okay, skill-based. A good example is jigsaw use. And then listening skills, coaching skills, or a very good one, skill-based behavior outcome is that airplane landings. Okay, so as a pilot, okay. And then and then after skills or behavior, affective outcomes measures. Okay, affective outcomes that measures attitudes. Okay, it is a reaction to a program and motivation through interviews, focus groups, and attitude surveys. Example, satisfaction with training, belief regarding other cultures. So that's a very good affective outcomes measurement attitude or measure attitude. Okay, result outcomes measure company payoffs through observation. Results outcomes measure company payoff through observation. And data information system or performance records. Example, absenteeism, accidents, patents. Okay, so that's result outcomes. Now, return on investment. The return on investment measures economic value of training through the identification and comparison of cost and benefits of the program. Money, earnings, profit, dollars. So these are a very good example. Now, why is it necessary to evaluate the training? So what would be the reasons for evaluating training? So number one is to identify the program's strengths and weaknesses. Number two is to assess whether the content, the organization, and the administration of the program contribute to learning and the use of the training content on the job. Number three is to identify which trainees benefited most, or at least from the program. And then another one is to gather marketing data by asking participants whether they would recommend the program to others or why they attended the program and their level of satisfaction with the program. And then another one is to determine the financial benefits and cost of the program. And then to compare the cost and benefits of training to non-training investments. So comparison. And lastly is to complete the cost and benefits of different training programs to choose the best program. Okay, that is appropriate. Now, in the evaluation design, so the factors to consider in choosing an evaluation design will include the size of the training program. After that, the purpose of the program and the implication if the training program does not work. And then other factors to be included in the company is that include the company norms as related to the evaluation cost of designing and conducting an evaluation, and the need for speed in obtaining program effectiveness information. So these are the evaluation designs. Now, determining return on investment. When you say cost-benefit analysis, so what do we mean by it? Now, it is the process of determining the economic benefit of the training program using the accounting methods. So, how? Determining the cost. So, the training cost includes direct and indirect cost. And then, relating it to the determination of the benefits. So, determining benefits. It is to identify the potential benefits of training. The company must review the original reasons for training. And then making the analysis. A cost-benefit analysis is best explained by an example. The special training issues on the cross-cultural preparation. So what is a cross-cultural preparation? It involves educating employees, including their families, who are given an assignment in a foreign country. Now, when you say special training issues regarding the cross-cultural preparation, you will need an expatriate definition. So what is an expatriate? It is an employee that is sent by his or her company to manage the operations of the business or company in other countries. Okay, in different countries even. Now, what are the steps in cross-cultural preparations? Okay, to be successful in overseas assignments, the expatriates needs to be trained in the following and assess the following. Competent in the area of expertise. Okay, able to communicate verbally and non-verbally in the host country, learning the language even for you to be able to be understood. And then flexible, tolerant of ambiguity. There are lots of confusions, there are lots of ambivalence, and sensitive to cultural differences for better understanding. Now, motivated to succeed. When you say motivated to succeed, this has to have this desire to be able to enjoy the challenge of working in other countries and willing to learn about the host country's culture, the host country's language and customs. And of course, it has to be supported by their families. Now, the three phases of cross-cultural preparation. In the pre-departure phase, employees need to receive language training and the orientation of the news of the new country's culture and customs for him to better have a better understanding. And it is critical that the family be included in the process of the orientation program. Now, the cross-cultural training methods range from presentational techniques such as lectures to actual experiences in the home country in culturally diverse community. On-site training is also being involved for continued orientation to the host country and its customs and cultures through the formal programs or through mentoring relationships. Next is the repatriation. And then when the repatriation, it prepares the expatriates for return to the parent company and the company from a foreign assignment. Now, the expatriates and their families are likely to experience a high level of stress and anxiety, when they return because of the changes and then the changes that have occurred since their departure, and then there. Now, how do we manage workforce diversity? So, when managing diversity, it involves creating an environment that will allow all employees to contribute to organizational goals and experience personal growth. Now, in the managing diversity through adherence to legislation, it is an approach to managing diversity through affirmative action policies and by making sure that human resources practices met standards, the standards of equal employment opportunity, adhering to the laws provided. And this approach really results in changes in employees' values, stereotypes, and behaviors that inhibit productivity and personal development. Now, to successfully manage a diverse workforce, companies need to assure that employees understand how their values and stereotypes influence their behavior toward others of different gender, of different ethnic, different racial or religious backgrounds. Employees also gain an appreciation of cultural differences among themselves and behaviors that isolate or intimidate minority group members improve. Diversity training. It will improve, definitely. So diversity training refers to training designed to change employee attitudes about diversity and or developing skills needed to work with diverse workforce. Now, attitude awareness and change programs is necessary. So what is this? It focuses on increasing employees' awareness of differences in cultural and ethnic programs or background, physical characteristics, personal characteristics that influences behavior towards the others. And many of these programs use videotapes and experiential exercises to increase employees' awareness of the negative emotional and performance effect of stereotypes, values, and behaviors on minority group members specifically. Now, there are criticisms in this approach even. So what are these? First, by focusing on group differences, the program may communicate that certain stereotypes and attitudes are valid. Second, encouraging employees to share their attitudes, their feelings, and stereotypes towards certain groups may cause employees to feel guilty and then feel angry and less likely to see the similarities amongst racial, ethnic, or gender groups and the advantages of working together. Okay, so there. Now, another one is the behavior-based programs. So when you say behavior-based programs, so it focuses on changing the organizational policies and individual behaviors that inhibit employees in personal growth and productivity. Now, how do we approach it? So there. One approach is that this program is to identify incidents that discourage employees from working up to their potential. Another approach is to teach managers and employees basic rules of behavior in the workplace. And then a third approach is the cultural immersion. A cultural immersion is referring to the process of sending employees directly into communities where they have to interact with persons from different cultures, different races, and nationalities. That is cultural immersion. Now, a characteristic of a successful diversity effort is that it increases evidence that shows that attitude awareness programs are ineffective and that one-time diversity training programs are unlikely to succeed. Okay? Now, socialization and orientation. It refers to, again, to the process that is used to transform new employees into effective company members. Now, through what? Now, through anticipatory socialization. Now, it is an expectation about the company, the job working conditions, and the interpersonal relationship has to be developed. Another one is the encounter phase. It occurs when the employee begins a new job in the encounter phase. Now, matter how realistic the information they were provided during interviews and site visits. Individual beginnings, new jobs will experience shock and surprise even because of a new territory. Now, another one is in the settling in phase. Settling in phase. Employees begin to feel comfortable with their job that demands and social relationship. Okay. Next is the orientation program play an important role in socializing employees. In the orientation, it involves familiarization of the new employees with company rules, company policies, and procedures. Okay, so these are the things that would command the discussion on Chapter 7 that talks about Chapter 7 about training. Okay, see you again in our next discussion.